It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now for my favorite part of the show, wherein, I guess, what's in Tim's background. I got to say, Tim, you're wearing a coyote stole right now with a live coyote draped over your shoulders. Am I right about that?
No, apparently the coyote blew up in a rocket accident.
Oh. All right.
I'm here at the Washington Cathedral. I'm looking at Michelle Obama's chair, which is going to be reused for the inauguration, I understand.
Sure, I think it's the same chair that Clint Eastwood talked to at the 2012 Republican convention. The famous empty chair.
Yeah, she could not be at the funeral because she had a previously scheduled prostate exam.
Oh, Jesus.
Could not break it. You know how hard it is to get an appointment with Obamacare.
Totally. I mean, I just had a dentist appointment today. I had to say I can't take any calls. It's just hard. Just hard all around. So, no, I totally understand that. Well, at least Michelle Obama is being consistent there. Speaking of, that funeral, there was a tweet that I sent out, this art candy. I don't know, but it was about Karen Pence not standing up and shaking Trump's hand at Jimmy Carter's funeral. And, a lot of people criticized her, MAGA types did. I thought that she and Mike Pence, like a good husband and wife, are just playing good cop, bad cop. Because, if you got video, you can see the feng shui of the whole thing. But, and I think Trump has to respect that. I mean, now you want a wife who actually deserves to be booed. You don't follow this closely, but that would be Thelma Krause, Jerry Krause's wife, who was booed at the United Center during a ceremony last year, and the crowd was pilloried for having done that. But I know that Thelma Krause, this is a minority opinion, had to be four square behind her husband, who made Michael Jordan's life miserable. So, don't play the old widow. We know the widow card. So, but anyway, I thought. I mean,
it's no. I think it's no coincidence that her name is Karen.
There we go. Sure. I mean, there's no question. I mean,
and Michelle doesn't want to show up. Karen doesn't want to shake his hand.
Karen showed up.
It's the women. You notice
right.
that it's and they say, if we had a woman president, there would be no more wars. Yeah,
probably be one. First of all, there'd be one at the drop of a hat because they want to prove that they're manly. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can have a war.
Sure.
Plus, they probably start a war because Riza Gorbachev looked at me the wrong way.
Or had the wrong shoes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that whole thing. So, meantime, there have been all these hearings for the Trump nominees, which have gone pretty well so far. Pam Bondi, who, by the way, as a character of mine used to say, hubbala, hubbala, boomski. I mean, that woman's 60 years old. I mean, she's got the skin.
What?
Yeah, she's 60.
Oh, my God.
I think she is. And she's got the skin of like a 20. All right. She's 58. Okay. Thanks, Chris. All right. We round up for women.
Yeah. She probably tells people she's 58. She's probably really 60. I think you're probably right, Bruce.
Right. So, I mean,
but yeah, holy cow. I had no idea.
Yes. So Adam Schiff, the new senator, so he's quizzing her and asking her if she's going to prosecute Lynn Cheney. Okay. and Bondi basically says, shut the hell up. I mean, what are you doing? Ask me a question that and it was just good that in your face. I just love that.
Actually, what she should have done, she should have said, I'm not aware of any crimes, Adam. What do you think she should be prosecuted for? Why do you think she needs to be prosecuted?
I mean, Adam Schiff, one of the great liars of all time in Congress. So as for Pete Hegseth, it was just interesting. First off, I think Pete Hegseth, if he doesn't become Secretary of Defense, should become the governor of California or the fire chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department, because he put some standards in there. He wouldn't be having 300-pound women who can't lift a man out of a fire
because they were in the wrong place.
Yeah, or blaming the man for being in the fire. But did you see in this hearing they actually asked? I mean, when we can't be nuttier than Congress is, no wonder we're 3 millionth in podcasts, because what are these guys talking about? They asked him if he could define what a jag-off is, okay? And that is a term for a JAG officer who's all about himself and not about the unit. Yeah, and by unit, I think we know what we're talking. No, but they actually asked him that. They asked him that.
Well, here in Chicago, it's someone who does not go when the light turns green.
There we go. Plus, I got to tell you, my sophomore high school sex teacher, we were the first ones to take sex education when ever, the first group. We were the guinea pigs. 9 weeks of sex education, and one thing I learned from it was that the term. Can we even talk about this still on the air 50 years, 60 years later? I'm not even sure. But he said it's not jag off, it's jack off. Okay, so that's the one thing I learned in sex education back then.
No, jag off is a common insult.
No, I'm saying that people have bastardized.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The purists among us. Okay. But anyway. But
I've never heard the G version for the CK version as a substitute. I've always
like they're different.
I mean, yeah. One
what I gotta say?
One is a verb. The other one's a noun.
Well, you know what I say to that? Different strokes for different folks. Okay. Whee! All right, try and beat me on that pun. We got 3 segments to go. Anyway, so what about Hegseth? They made this big deal that he is a drinker or whatever. And as the guy I plagiarize all the time, except for puns, on this John Podhoretz of the Commentary Podcast said he walks down the streets of Manhattan all the time. He's got the stench of marijuana on him because the blue states and the blue cities have legalized this stuff. And now you're worried that Pete Hegseth was a drinker. And then, okay. I mean, it's just
who was the senator that actually said I want to know. Do you want me to say how many of the senators here showed up for a vote drunk?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, I saw that too. I forgot the name of the nondescript senator. Well, now he's pretty descript. Here's the trick though. So Hegseth was saying, "Oh, I got nothing against women being in combat roles, but I want the standards to be the same." Well, that's the catch. And nobody really quizzed him on that, because the argument is that the male chauvinists make the standards way too high. Oh, the senator was Mark Wayne Mullen. Anyway, thank you, Chris. The standard, the argument is that they make the standards too high.
He's got a serial killer name.
Oh, totally, Mark Mullen. Right. But they make the standards too high so that only the men can reach them and the women can't, but they're really not necessary for today's warfare. Now, that's at least the argument that's made, but I don't see anybody make it. Tammy Duckworth didn't make it when she was quizzing him on trying to name the members of the Southeast Asian nations, and it doesn't even have anything to do with defense, apparently. But
by the way, I looked it up. $29.95
is
what a duck's worth.
What? That's what a duck's worth, sure. But in asking the irrelevant question, now, if you really wanted to test these nominees, they should have to name all the presidents in chronological order. One mistake allowed and that would be forgetting Rutherford B. Hayes, because nobody remembers him. But other than that, and that should be the prerequisite, like a citizenship test or whatever.
If I'm not mistaken, you can do that, can't you, Bruce?
I think
we've talked about this before.
You asked me,
without singing the song.
Right. We'll tell you this. Here's an AP U.S. history essay question I'd like people to answer. Who's the best tweener president? Joe Biden, who was between 45 and 47, or Benjamin Harrison, who was between the terms of Grover Cleveland? You can go ahead and answer that question right now and get. Let's see if you get a 5 on your AP test. Can you answer that question?
I'm not sure.
You have no idea who Benjamin Harrison was, and neither do I. I think he was related somehow.
Wasn't he the one who died right after the inauguration?
Died a month after his inauguration. And that's good. That's excellent, because Biden basically died before his inauguration. Didn't he?
And you know what? Harrison did not take the COVID shot.
There you go. Absolutely. There you go. So anyway, if we can, put a bow on this argument here, are the standards too high for combat in today's army?
I think for frontline combat, I think frontline combat hasn't changed in thousands of years.
World War I, since the mustard gas, since the doughboys. Okay.
I mean, there's not as much of it, but it still exists. I mean, you still have a front line.
Yeah, I know.
Going in.
Aren't there women that can meet the standards with today's equipment? I'm just.
I don't know.
It's just interesting but I think what happens is that men still want to be men. Alpha men want to take care of women, and that wrecks the esprit de corps. But no, you can't say. You know what I just said? What I said was heresy, absolute heresy. I'm running out of the country right now. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And Tim, I'm not outing you, but you just told me in the little break that we had here that you weren't really familiar with the Rotherham scandal, and that's what they want you not to know. Okay, because this happened in England. It actually happened,
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, it's Muslims raping the white trash of England. I basically have what it's about, and of course that's a pejorative, I think, when you say white trash. Although in Britain it has a whole different connotation. No, the thing is,
I think it's refuse. I think it's called refuse.
Yeah, yes. I go to the loo and and they were sticking these girls in the boot of the car. No, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible what happened. And it's not that nobody knew about it. It's really interesting. It's that people knew about it, but it was still covered up, and the government didn't do anything about it. And now maybe some people will be brought to justice, but it's absolutely terrible. I mean, was it hundreds or thousands of these girls got raped by these men who believed that there's nothing wrong with it, because that's what you do. It's slavery.
That's their culture. If a woman arouses you, it's their fault. They should not be arousing you.
Well, it also, if they happen to be part of your conquest, your military conquest, that's what it says. That's what it says in their scripture. And, everybody tries to soft pedal it and contextualize it. And I totally get that, trying to do that. But there's still that hardcore that believes in that. And the problem is that was protected by the powers that be, because, we don't
want to stereotype.
Yeah, we're horrible. Even all this happening. I'm thinking, this is so bad that it should actually affect some of the cultural heroes that we have from Great Britain. Where was Paul McCartney on this one? Okay, as Dana Carvey, twiddly bop, everybody loves me. But where was he?
I'd rather ask Cat Stevens.
Okay, yeah, there you go. And what about Her Majesty? Pretty nice girl, but she doesn't have a lot to say. Where was the Queen of England on this? How about Monty?
Who, Prince Charles, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. How about Monty Python too? Because they are, they've got their iconoclastic Life of Brian and all this. But did they ever say anything? Did they ever make fun of them? No, because it was basically untouchable. And so, but now maybe the chickens will come home to roost. So, just an interesting scandal in the empire, and maybe that will, how anything spoken with an English accent, it has much greater credibility from us.
Yep.
It's except the Dick Van Dyke chimney sweep accent, but
that was close. That was close. That was closer to Australian, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but the Alistair Cook line, anything spoken that way, we must, kowtow to whatever they have to say. So, maybe if Jack Smith had delivered his address in an English accent, he'd be more persuasive, because this guy finally, came out with his report on what Trump did wrong, and the Capitol riot.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't indict Trump for insurrection, the Insurrection Act. They couldn't prove that. And Jack Smith said that he rushed the indictment because he didn't want to be accused of trying to influence the election if he did it, too late, like as if he wasn't trying to influence the election. I mean, that was the whole point of going.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there's no statute of limitations on insurrection. I'm pretty sure he could have waited until 2028 to.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, I mean, he should have tried to be timely if there really was something there, but there wasn't. I mean, this was a political hatchet job. So,
well, they thought if they could get him for insurrection, that would disqualify him on the ballot. I mean, that was essentially
absolutely
the plan, and that was the plan. That was the plan from the moment that those rioters broke through the Capitol barriers. That was the plan. It was to get Donald Trump indicted for insurrection and disqualified from ever running again.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely. No question about it. I agree with you on that. Meanwhile, turning to more important things. Okay. So let's talk about that coyote. Did you see the coyote at Aldi's? We have video of that.
What was he bringing in employees?
Okay. So this is it's if you can't see this, folks, and I'm sure you have online. I mean, the coyote was in the Aldi's. I don't know if that's the produce or the meat section, and not in the aisle. Was actually in the section, and they had to pull the coyote out by his tail. And then my understanding was, because it was Aldi's, if you actually wanted to purchase the coyote, you had to bag it yourself, which is really it's kind of hazardous. And then there was a report of a coyote that got hit on the runway at O'Hare. The plane had to turn back because during takeoff, its landing gear hit this coyote. And I'm wondering, how did that coyote get from Humboldt Park in the Aldi's over to O'Hare? And people were tweeting me saying, "Oh, Uber, Lyft, that's how."
I think perhaps the coyote was on top of the landing gear trying to catch the Roadrunner.
Obviously. It was
my aunt actually ran into a coyote, thought it was a dog.
Oh my.
And actually took it to the vet to see if it was
my goodness.
She wanted to see if it was microchipped and to find out what breed it was.
Oh my goodness. And they said, "Gay.
No, they actually ran the scanner over, found out that it was a Chihuahua, a Poodle, 3 cats, and a Shih Tzu.
That it had eaten? What?
That's the joke, Bruce.
I get it. Okay. Sorry to help you on that one. I knew when you mentioned your aunt that I had to get set up for a joke. Man alive. Can we start this segment over again? So,
I think I just beat your pun there.
I think you did. So there was apparently is a case before the Supreme Court for Pornhub, and I don't even know what the case is, but Alito is questioning the attorney for Pornhub, and he's asking if Pornhub is like Playboy was in the 60s when everybody said they read it for the articles. I love that because it says, this is from Veronica tweet. Alito asks, is Pornhub like the old Playboy? You have essays on there by Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley Jr. The funny thing is that I actually remember the 1970 interview with Buckley by Playboy. I actually, in part, read that issue for the article, and I mean, I was a kid then. So at the end of the interview, Buckley says, "I know my Redeemer liveth," and I thought he had made up the quote. And imagine my surprise when I found out that Job had said it first in the Bible. Huh. Yeah. There was a quote within a quote. I should have realized later. And I know my Redeemer liveth is from Job. Now, Buckley always said we stand on the shoulders of giants. So I guess Job was one of those. But yeah, I would, I'd read some of the articles in Playboy. Now, of course, not only the articles, but the jokes, the Unabashed Dictionary, which
sure.
You remember. I remember. You know what the definition of urination was?
Not sure.
What Israel told, what the United Nations told Israel in 1948. I'm not going to segue into the peace agreement on that.
My favorite was a definition of a specimen.
What is it?
That's an Italian astronaut.
That is really good. Okay.
And I like it because it works both. It works two ways. One, it's a bad pun. Yeah. Another one, it's a commentary on the Italian space program.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's double layered. I'm going to wreck this bit by trying to take it further. Okay, just an announcement right there. Because my favorite Playboy party joke was the Norse god woke up the next morning from a night of ribaldry, and the nymph that was next to him, was lying there, and he said to her, finally introduced himself, and he said, "I'm Thor," and she responded, "You're Thor. I'm so Thor I can hardly piff." Now, hey, where else are you going to get Playboy party jokes in the 3 million podcasts that are ahead of us? Maybe one of them, Joe Rogan may throw in an occasional Playboy party joke, but not 3 in a row. And thank you, Justice Alito, for triggering that one.
Do you remember the Penthouse Forum?
Yeah.
Okay. I was driving through the flatlands, and nothing on the radio but Christian radio.
Oh.
And I swear that they were reading straight out of Penthouse Forum.
Really?
But what they did was, and imagine my surprise when I walked into the room and they were both on their knees praying. Would you like to join us? They offered. So I had never prayed in a group before.
Sure. It's like Mad Libs. You just substitute praying. Great way. A lot of program directors did that back in the 70s. They substituted Penthouse Forum letters and just,
sure.
said, fill in the blanks for whatever fits your format. And, and they never got any royalties for that, too. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
But the entire Pacific Palisades looks like virtually Palestine or one of these war-torn countries that were on the
so Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Yeah, my old friend Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't like, because I just know whose side she's on, as far as Gaza goes. So it was, but it's bad there. By the way, did you?
Well, in her defense, much like Gaza, there's a lot of displaced Jews. So
exactly. So there's another video I saw of Jamie Lee Curtis doing a bit with Jimmy Fallon, an exercise class bit. And this couldn't have been long, relatively recently, I guess. And she looks really good in this exercise video. I interviewed her, and I've talked about this before. I interviewed her like 20 years ago in a hallway ambush interview, and she kind of looked a little at that, and it was fine with me. When I talked to her, I said, "Did we go to high school, together?" But she looked, a little frumpy then.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if she get herself back in shape. Was I not looking at her the right way? I'm really upset about that. Anyway, audience making fun of the fire department that it's not white enough, and even Bill Burr isn't blaming anybody there. And they can laugh a lot, and they're funny guys, and I wouldn't pretend that I could out funny them, but do they have any answers for whether there should have been like controlled burns or maintaining the water infrastructure or restricting development in fire prone areas? That nuts and bolts stuff.
Of course not. Of course not. The problem is the rest of the country isn't following California's lead on climate change.
Right.
I mean, we all know that, right?
Because we could have affected. And what's funny is that it's really hard to make the case that climate change had anything to do with this, because there've been fires like this for thousands of years. They had a lot of rain, but the rain trends have not been different over the years. They haven't increased. There was a lot of vegetation that came up because of that, and then there was a drought, and then you have the Santa Ana winds that have been going 80 to 90 miles an hour at least since we've been publishing stories about the weather in the United States.
It's actually, I found an article. The first recorded notation of the Santa Ana winds comes from 1750.
It's just amazing. So, and of course they're boxed in there because even if you can attribute some of this to global warming, well, then why didn't they do anything to protect the people?
Exactly. Al Gore has been screaming about it for 30 years. It's yes, you can't say, well, we didn't know that it was going to happen. I mean, come on. And then, you have more global warming devotees in California than anywhere else in the country.
Sure. And then Whoopi Goldberg, of course, the court of last resort, it just blamed the wind. And it just reminded me of the Bob Dylan biopic that's out now, and his famous song, which, I would sing to Whoopi, that the answer is blowing out your end, which was the great parody of Blowing in the Wind about 50 years ago. So, of course, the worst thing.
How come every time people use pictures of Whoopi Goldberg, they're old pictures?
Right. I mean, what does she look like now?
She kind of looks like Walter Matthau now.
Oh, okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
She's pretty much wearing muumuus.
Nothing wrong with that. The worst thing though was the Fox Sports announcer Kevin Burkhardt, because the sports guys were making the appeal to help LA out, and so he went on Twitter, Kevin Burkhardt, and he's getting a picture there with Aaron, the sideline reporter, Aaron Andrews. And he starts out his pitch by saying, "Please join Aaron Andrews and I as we partner with the Red Cross." And of course, it should be, "Please join Aaron Andrews and me." And that just sent a chill up my spine. I mean, this is the number one announcer for Fox. I mean, I could see Tony Romo saying that, or one of those Philistine athletes, but and as Marcus Brown, Marcus Brown is Chris, he's the program director at AM 560. He commented when I said that I was aghast over this, that that's the first step in the grammar loss of grammar is how you slide into Gomorrah, and there's truth in that. So Kevin Burkhardt, God damn you! I mean, that's all I can say.
I actually saw that celebrities like Jennifer Lopez are donating clothes that they don't use anymore to the people who've lost everything, which is kind of funny. Which because I don't think Jennifer Lopez has any piece of clothing that can keep anyone warm. I mean, I imagine all these celebrities, they're gonna all donate the Oscar dresses that they only wore once.
Right.
So everybody in LA is going to be dressed like red carpet day.
Yeah, imagine you're standing at the bus stop, waiting and trying to shuffle onto the bus. Wait, no, I wait. Give me a second to get on here. In your heels, it's kind of difficult. I agree. Right. No, they're trying to. It's a little bit. I mean, like Tom Wolfe's description of the Leonard Bernstein party for the Black Panthers. When he talked about the expensive rollout of all the hors d'oeuvres and that to feed the Black Panthers.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the Hollywood way of doing things, and and the whole deal was that they're all about these lofty things regarding global warming, and they don't have their feet on the ground because it's Hollywood. It's make believe, and they won't do the nuts and bolts things, that the boring quotidian things that must be done in order to make a municipality thrive. And I mean, it's perfect that way. And you can't tell me that there isn't a little bit of Schadenfreude that we have about some of these people anyway.
Just a tad. Leonardo DiCaprio actually flew to Mexico in his private jet.
Oh, there you go.
To get out of the.
There you go.
Out of the mayhem.
Just to show that we're very fair, last week we famed David Muir of ABC News because he was wearing that fire jacket, the yellow fire jacket, with the clothespin in the back, so that he could look. We said so that he could, look more buff.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out, according to him, that the reason that he had the clothespin in the back was because if he didn't, then the jacket would flap over his lavalier microphone while he was trying to talk.
Oh.
And if that's the truth, I think we owe him not only an apology, but I would like to buy him his first dozen donuts that he will ever have eaten in his life. Because I feel bad for David Muir. I mean, the only thing I felt worse about was that because he was swaddled in that yellow jacket, he wasn't able to show those great guns that he works on all the time and that we've seen in the helicopter.
But now it's unzipped. The lab's gonna be all over the place. So
yeah. He actually got one that's like 2 sizes too small and won't zip it. If you've noticed.
Okay. Yeah.
It's send him some donuts, because you know what? The only donut that David Muir has ever seen is the one he sits on after Pride Week.
Well, we should really end this segment right here. We got a minute.
David Lynch passing away just shy of his 79th birthday. His family tonight writing there's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us. But as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And I just want to go on the record as saying that we suspended Tim 2 minutes between the segments for that joke there. And it's only because we're very generous in spirit that we allow him to come back for this 4th segment.
Because I have nothing to say.
Well, it is a sports segment.
We can bring Tim back because he doesn't know anything about sports. He'll be quiet.
Well, I'll tell you what I did want to bring up. One more thing, non-sports, is that you see that Trump has flip-flopped on state and local taxes, otherwise known as SALT, the deduction for that. And, he had gotten rid of that deduction in his first administration, and it was a good thing that he'd done that, because if you allow the blue states to deduct the state and local taxes, you're just encouraging their, horrible spending on, all those social programs. And now apparently he's going to yield, and he's going to reverse his course on that. And I'm just wondering how conservative talk radio is going to handle that, because there's nothing that Trump can do no wrong on some of those shows and stations. And how do you deal with that?
Well, it hit a lot of people that it was not expected to hit. Is what I think. It was not the intention was great, but it didn't lower taxes in any of those states. I mean, that was the hope, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's going to take a while.
If they want to do it, if they want to, they should have to pay for it. They shouldn't be rewarded.
But in the meantime, you've got a lot of middle class families that might have like a hunting cabin up north or something like that they're going to have to that actually they ended up having to pay more taxes. So,
all right, bleeding heart. Okay, there you go. All right. I hate to turn to sports because I know you don't like it at all. Well, I mean, are you interested at all in the Detroit game this weekend?
Yeah,
Do you care?
okay. I've actually, the Detroit game has got me paying more attention to football than I have ever paid in my entire life, and since maybe high school. So, if even then.
Right. I mean, this is the first. I mean, the chances that Detroit or Buffalo could wind up winning the Super Bowl for the first time. Here's the thing. And have you followed at all this offensive coordinator Ben Johnson on Detroit, or you don't go that?
Nah, that's too much.
Okay, because he may be he's like one of the leading candidates for the Bears
head
coaching job. Now, Mike McCarthy, the former Dallas Cowboys coach, is a candidate for that. And if he doesn't make that, he will be invited to be the fifth member of the reconstitution of the Superfan sketch, The Bears, because he's got the weight in order to do that. And I understand that Bob Odenkirk can't do it anymore. He used to put on the mustache and do that. And stuff a couple of pillows inside him as well. So, yeah, there is that. Now, there is also this thing about Tom Brady, who I'm sure you know is the GOAT, right? Greatest of all time, the greatest quarterback. And he's not so great. He's okay in his first year as the #1 analyst for Fox, but he's got a conflict of interest now on top of that, because he's a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. They're in the hunt to get this Ben Johnson as the coach. The Bears are. And how do you announce the games while you're also an owner? I mean, it seems like, but it's only sports, right?
Do the announcers have to be neutral?
Well, they're supposed to be. They like to say they're beyond the appearance of impropriety, but I guess they're all on the take anyway. They don't really. I mean,
that wasn't with baseball. Baseball, they always had their own announcers.
Well, they would still be the teams would be able to hire them or had some power over them. Look, I would like John Gruden, who basically got exiled from the NFL because of some emails that were found that were kind of contained some slurs. I would like for him to be in the announcing booth and really, just start talking about can we get rid of those end racism slogans on the backs of the helmets? Something like that. It won't be as good as when Jerry Glanville used to do the games years ago, and he would constantly talk about the one of the lines trying to plug the a-hole. And then he changed it to the A gap, but it was the line of scrimmage. So,
hey, that brings up an interesting question, because now a lot of these games are only on cable. They're only on streaming, like Netflix or Paramount Plus or
now
Peacock.
The last few will be,
I'm talking about the other games. So are the announcers So that means the FCC language restrictions.
Oh,
I mean, wouldn't that make a game interesting?
Well, yeah. Well,
oh my God, look at that MF run.
Yeah, sure. And what I would really like is to see, I want the announcers to, since the NFL has gone whole hog and now has, is in bed with the gambling outfits. I'd like the announcers, forget Tom Brady being objective. I'd like him to have a little action on these games.
Sure.
And you have to announce, you have to fully disclose what your bet is on these games. But
Bruce,
yeah,
3 things. First of all,
sure.
Al Michael still tries to pretend like they're not supposed to talk about gaming, like he doesn't realize it's a thing.
Sure. Right.
Second, do you watch the Pat McAfee broadcast? Because Tim, they do swear on that. That's the side broadcast they do, like the Peyton Manning cast.
Oh, right.
And they swear all the time on that, but you have to that's streaming only, so they can swear.
Right.
And third, don't you think this whole Brady thing is just cooked up so sports radio has something to talk about for 3 hours? Because it's completely, who cares what he's saying about the coach? You think that's going to influence the coach's decision? Oh, he said nice things about me. I'm going to go to the Raiders.
Well, first of all, anything that Tom Brady said that was the least bit controversial would be much better than the anodyne commentary he's been giving us all season. I mean, do you like him?
I like that he goes through and explains the play and what the read was.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's just, I think he suffers from the fact that he got such a big contract that you're expecting him to be, like John Milton or Shakespeare or something. Because
I think he's just as good as Greg Olson, and Greg Olson was the number one that they just.
Okay, there you go. You're allowed that. I mean, you're watching more closely than I am because I'm doing crossword puzzles in between the plays, and not paying that much attention. Yeah, but I would like, it would be nice if here's what I would like. Why doesn't Brady just get back into the game? You know that he could still quarterback some of these teams. Probably could quarterback the Las Vegas Raiders, which he's a part owner of, better than the guys that they have there. But he also mics himself up, like David Muir. He probably has a clothespin in the back just to tighten up the jersey a little bit. But
that's the only time David Muir ever wore the clothespins on the back.
Oh God. Okay. All right. So, all right.
There's a rumor that Tom Brady's going to come back and captain the flag football team for the Olympics. Now that flag football is an Olympic sport.
Oh my! I didn't know that was. I know that it's a Pro Bowl sport.
2028, it's going to be in the Olympics in LA, and the rumor is that Tom Brady will come back and be the quarterback because there's like no pressure and you don't get hit and stuff.
Well, he didn't get hit the last few years of his career. There was, that was that rule too. But what if they mic'd him? And then he could announce and analyze his own plays, and you'd hear him grunt as he got hit. Although there was the rule against him getting hit the last couple of years. Anyway, I'm just trying to spitball this stuff in between the salacious material that Tim is proffering today.
It's more interesting than talking about Mike Kafka being the new Bears coach. That's for sure.
Well, let's take a look at Mike Kafka. Did you see that? There's Bears head coach interview Mike Kafka, and I was thinking that you could be sure that if the shotgun formation is mentioned in the first interview with him, it'll come up again in the third interview with Kafka. Now that is a literate joke, my friend. I'm just laughing at myself right here. Okay. And once you make the metamorphosis into a literary persona, Tim, you'll get that joke. But anyway,
try that joke on the score.
You know where your mind is, huh?
Try that joke on the score. No one will get it.
Right. I think Bernstein might get it.
I think it might be a little too Kafka-esque.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, but anyway, so I think have we exhausted the? Let us take a look at Marcus Freeman, who this James Flanagan tweet. He's the Notre Dame coach, and he's in the national championship game, and a lot of Bears were talking about getting him too, but there's a picture of him with his 6 children. and he converted to Catholicism in 2022. So, a lot of people who were born Catholic practice birth control, but he appears to have forsaken it before he converted in 2022. Because look at that guy with 6 kids. Mazel tov to him. And then, speaking of lots of children, let's see this Matt Foster tweet. Andy Reid was asked about Patrick Mahomes. You're familiar with Patrick Mahomes, of course. He has 3 children right now. He has 3rd child. And Andy said, once you have 3, 4 and 5 are easy. That's what I told him. You made 3. Add a couple of more. We'll talk. And I got to tell him, I understand what Andy's talking about. You have only so much love to give out. You just divvy it up. You just don't let the kids know it, that you're divvying it up. Because that would be a bumble rooski. Andy, I love that State Farm commercial. Okay. All right. Got any more dirty jokes as we finish?
Dirty
today?
Jokes? I don't know what you're talking about.
I
Donuts and clothespins.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, once again, good time. Hope we're going to be back next week. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.